This series hopefully has been helpful for all of us on some level because we've been talking about the things that will try and derail us on our spiritual journey. This week's obstacle is one that we all probably have faced on some level. Maybe you're facing it now in a very, very real way. Maybe you will face it down the road as you grow and get into life and get into your job and those types of things. And so we're going to jump right into Luke chapter 8. This is the story of the soils, or the parable of the sower, that we have been building this series on. And I'm not going to read the whole parable this week. I'm just going to focus on one of the soils that we're going to talk about, one of the sets of conditions that is going to set us up for this week. This is Luke chapter 8, starting in verse 7. Jesus says this: "Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up with it and choked the plants." The thorns are the riches, the lure of wealth that all of us have to navigate on a regular basis. Jesus is trying to help us understand. He's giving us this timeless wisdom that your flesh and the world around you, and the enemy is at work as well, will constantly try to lure you into what he calls in Matthew the deceitfulness of wealth. The belief that if you have more, you will be happier. If you have more, you will be better. If you have more, you will be respected. If you have more, fill in the blank. But it all starts with if you have more. The thorns didn't kill the plant. Like, the plant was still there. There are other examples of where the seeds would be sown and the plant would wither away. That's not the case with the thorns. What happens with the thorns is it simply chokes out the fruit. It chokes out its fruitfulness. It hinders its ability to flourish and do what it was created to do. And what Jesus is trying to help us understand, that greed has the potential of hindering the transformation process. I want to give you a couple lists, and I want you to think about what list you most fit in, okay? Here's a list of where many of us are before we enter into a relationship with Jesus, and just how most people go throughout the earth. Self-centered, depressed, fearful, controlling, judgy, immoral, fickle, harsh, addicted. Now, those might not be the terms you would want to use to define yourself. You maybe could ask a friend or a spouse, like, do any of those sound like me? But all of us, if we're honest, these are the types of things that define who we are before we know Jesus. But here's the types of things biblically that Jesus wants to do in our lives. These are the fruits of the Spirit. He wants to move us from self-centered to loving. He wants to move us from depressed to joyful. He wants to move us from fearful to peace-filled. He wants to move us from controlling to patient, from judgy to kind, from immoral to good, from fickle to faithful, and from addicted to self-controlled. Now, if you think about that second list, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, Galatians chapter 5, these are the fruits of the Spirit. These are the types of transformation that God, that through the power of the Holy Spirit, wants to do in you. And what Jesus is trying to help us understand is greed has the power to hinder that. We have this ability as human beings to get attached to what's around us. I call it our wanter. Every one of us, I don't even know how to fully describe this, but you get it. Every one of us has a wanter, don't we? Like, it's this thing inside of us that just wants. We want clothes, we want shoes, we want the house, we want the car, we want the status that might come with that. We want a little bit more. We want to see that number grow. Like, every one of us has this wanter that has the ability to get emotionally attached to what we have. And this is what Paul is getting at here. This is where things get dangerous, is when we fall in love with what we have. So how do we do this? Something we do that's connected to relieving depression, increasing happiness, and boosting a sense of healthy purpose and meaning. It's simply this: giving. Every time you give, you are declaring not only to your soul, to that wanter that is never satisfied, but you are also declaring to Instagram and the ads and the person who lives next door to you, there's always enough.